I grew up in New York City.
New Haven, Connecticut.
Denver, Colorado.
Born in Moldova.
In Israel.
Boston.
Frankfurt, Germany.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Brooklyn, New York.
The Bronx.
I remember when somebody asked me, how come that there's so many people from the East out here? I said, because that's as far west as you can go.
Coming to California was an opportunity to start over.
Always had wanted to move to California.
I wanted a Shabbat community.
I wanted to start an internet company.
Moving from the East Coast to the Bay Area was difficult.
Not originally in any way an enthusiast.
It's certainly a struggle here to participate Jewishly.
On Passover, you couldn't find a store that sold matzahs.
I hated it the first 6 months.
A little more spread out, a little more hidden sometimes.
A little bit more challenging to find it.
I struggled. I went to different shuls and services.
Once you find them, it's family all over again.
San Francisco soon felt like home.
And then I felt so free when I came to the Bay Area. There was this incredible openness.
My idea of bohemian heaven.
Hippies and peace and love.
Just a little bit of less pressure.
I was myself. I was in my element.
That's a very special kind of environment.
We're on a kind of frontier here.
We loved the interest in innovation.
Community of people who are seeking out the
For
future.
people looking for something new.
No one's looking down on anybody, and no one's tisk-tisking.
That has transformed my life.
California was incredibly good to my family.
We have this homegrown family now.
It is where I belong.
Here, who wants to fight? We're living in paradise.
My name is Leo Mark Horovitz. I'm 82. I was born in Frankfurt, Germany.
My name's Josh Kornbluth, and I live in Berkeley, and I'm a monologist.
I left Germany at age 10. There's a way for kids, Jewish kids, to leave called Kindertransport. And my sister and I were two of 10,000 kids that left that way and went to England.
I grew up in New York City, and my upbringing was completely militantly secular. So we were very, very anti-religious. You know, Karl Marx had said that religion was the opiate of the masses, and Karl Marx was sort of our guy.
I emigrated to Canada, and I worked as an engineer for like 2 or 3 years. Then I decided I wanted to go back to school somewhere in the US, so I ended up in Berkeley.
The very first pop single that I ever heard or that I'm aware of hearing was Be Sure to Wear Flowers in Your Hair if you're going to San Francisco.
I worked at Lawrence Berkeley Lab for a long time, actually for over 20 years. It was kind of an academic research environment, but it was pretty casual. I got married, and my wife would tell me she thought I was one of these people who thought that everything was perfect in California and better than anywhere else.
I remember just, the thought of it, like the sound of that song and the idea of wearing flowers in your hair, although perhaps, not totally sanitary. It just seemed very lovely.
I think for me, coming to California was an opportunity to start over, start a new life, a more modern life, easier life, I think, yeah.
There's a particular kind of personality, including mine, that's a very tightly wound East Coast personality or Northeast personality, that neurotic and really wound up so much that it's very hard for people like me to do anything, because we're sort of hitting ourselves on the head all the time and then taking a nap and then drinking coffee and then hitting ourselves again. And what coming out here does for some of us, including me, is that there's this sense of just a little bit of less pressure. I mean, it's away from where we grew up.
So one of the things that was really a problem for me was when I was a little kid, there were rules everywhere. There were layers of rules. There were German rules. And then there was all the Nazi stuff, which was crazy. Then on top of that were the Orthodox Jewish rules. And then on top of that was my mother. And so I rebelled.
I wasn't bar mitzvahed until this very year, a few months ago, at the age of 52, when I was bar mitzvahed in Israel.
I really wanted not to be Jewish, I think, for a long time, for various reasons. I decided to go to Amazonia, and I spent time in Peru and Ecuador and Brazil with native shamans, and I learned from them. And it's only recently that I've come back to Judaism, which is kind of interesting.
I wrote an email to the rabbi. You know, rabbis are on email now. They text, they Twitter, they Facebook. And I just said, might you train me for a bar mitzvah?
I have recently gotten connected with this organization called Wilderness Torah, and they are a Jewish group that wants to reconnect Judaism with land and nature-oriented practices.
And Menachem came back with, sure, and then he upped the ante and said, and why don't we do the class where I teach you, invite a bunch of people to join us and make it public.
They think that originally, like 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, that was how Judaism was. It was people who lived on the land, were either farmers or sheep herders, and had this strong connection, and that the Jewish festivals actually kind of revolved around that.
He made it into this big shmagegi, and it became a very beautiful shmagegi.
And so they hold festivals for instance, they have something called Passover in the desert, and so they go camping in the desert. That was the first thing I did with them.
My bar mitzvah was conducted by Rabbi Creditor in the Negev desert with my family and with a bunch of other people, mostly from Berkeley.
So I'm 82, and a lot of people said to me, well, what are you doing with these young folks? You don't belong with them, and you won't fit in, etc. And so, but I went there anyway, and it turned out I was really welcomed by them, and they were really, I'd say, very appreciative.
The bar mitzvah itself was beautiful. It was the ceremony, my bar mitzvah ceremony was on a water tower, on top of a water tower on a kibbutz in the Negev desert. And the fact that it was happening to me in this state of decrepitude in my life and surrounded by this community and my family, it was just very, very powerful. And it was something I never, ever would have predicted.
For me, it's like a fresh opportunity to take a look at how I want to be Jewish, and they're open to new ideas and non-conventional things, and I'm pretty much on that edge.
One of the things that's so beautiful to me about studying Judaism, at least with the people I've been studying, is that these contradictions that I feel within myself, the struggles I have within myself, do not disqualify me from being a member, did not disqualify me from being part of the Jewish community, but in fact, kind of in a way, show that I am in that community.
I think basically I'm an adventurer, and I'm always looking for the next adventure. And I've had a lot of adventures, and I'm still on that path.